I turned 85 last spring, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea in hand, thinking about how my mornings used to start back when I was 65. Back then, I'd begin each day with a hearty breakfast that often included foods I believed were perfectly healthy. Canned soups, quick fix frozen meals, or sometimes just a slice of toast smothered in salted butter. It felt so ordinary, so harmless. Yet somewhere along the way, my body started sending me distress signals. Mild headaches that turned into pounding throbs, ankles that swelled up by late afternoon, and an unquenchable thirst that seemed to worsen every year. My doctor kept telling me to watch my sodium, but I dismissed it as a standard medical advisory. After all, I'd consumed salt all my life. How bad could it be? The turning point came when one morning I woke with my heart racing like a galloping horse. A wave of dizziness forced me to sit down before I even made it to the kitchen. It felt like my body was shouting, "Enough is enough." A hospital checkup revealed elevated blood pressure and early signs of kidney stress, both strongly linked to a lifetime of too much sodium. I remember the flutter in my chest when the doctor said, "At your age, if you don't make a change soon, you're gambling with your heart and your future." My mind instantly went to my grandchildren. Would I see them graduate college? Would I be there when they got married? Fear set in because I knew these were not guaranteed if I kept ignoring the problem. I share this because too many seniors think, "Oh, salt is just a seasoning, not a big deal." Meanwhile, it's silently straining our hearts, stiffening our arteries, and sapping the energy we need to enjoy our golden years. And let's be honest, no one wants to spend their 80s tethered to medical appointments or worried about sudden hospital visits. We want our independence. We want to feel confident stepping out for a stroll or traveling to see family. We want to wake up with the energy to embrace another beautiful day. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 6 lessons I learned on my journey to reducing sodium. These insights saved me from the brink of serious heart issues and gave me a brighter, more energetic life. By the end, you'll see how a few simple adjustments can protect you from the pitfalls of high blood pressure, reduce your odds of kidney problems, and keep you feeling vibrant, even if you're well into your 80s like I am. Stay with me until the last lesson, because that final tip is something I never heard from any of my doctors, yet it transformed everything about how I approach my diet. If you start applying these lessons, you could find yourself with more stamina, better focus, and a renewed sense of control over your health, all while enjoying flavorful meals that don't leave you craving the salt shaker. Now, you might be wondering why you should trust me. I've spent years speaking with doctors, chatting with fellow seniors, and reading up on the newest findings about aging and nutrition. I'm no doctor myself, but when multiple medical voices and scientific reports echo the same advice, and when you see the results firsthand in your own life, that's worth paying attention to. I've combined my personal experiences with this broader knowledge, hoping to offer practical guidance you can start using today. Before we dive in, I have one small request. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on notifications, so you'll be the first to know whenever we share new insights to help you thrive in your later years. And as you watch, if you find these tips helpful, type 1 in the comments. If you don't, type 0 and let me know why. Your feedback helps me understand what truly matters to you and how I can improve these videos. Let's begin with the very first lesson that changed everything for me. The first lesson I learned was that even healthy foods can hide a boatload of sodium. For years, I believed that canned vegetable soup was a nutritious option, especially on chilly evenings. But here's the bold statement that turned my assumptions upside down. Often, these so-called health foods are loaded with more salt than a plate of fries. It sounds absurd, doesn't it? Most seniors consider a bowl of vegetable soup a safe choice, but if you look at the label, you might be shocked. I've seen brands that boast about their low-calorie benefits, but sneak in over 800 milligrams of sodium per serving. That's more than half the recommended limit for the entire day for many older adults. So why does this matter? Because seniors often focus on sugar and fat content, forgetting that sodium is an equally critical factor. The common misconception is that a light or low-fat product automatically means it's good for you. In reality, food manufacturers frequently reduce fat but compensate with salt to maintain flavor. My neighbor Gloria, age 77, was a prime example. She struggled with her weight and high cholesterol for years, so she switched to low-fat soups, thinking it would help. Yet her blood pressure kept climbing, leaving her feeling dizzy and exhausted. She couldn't understand why until she checked the sodium content on the label. Turned out each bowl was like taking in a tidal wave of salt. She felt betrayed. She'd spent months loyally sipping soups she believed were heart-healthy, only to discover they were sabotaging her blood pressure. The surprising truth is that many convenience foods labeled healthy or light rely on excessive sodium to enhance taste. They're playing on our assumption that low-fat or organic equals good for you. But here's the counterintuitive part. In some cases, a product that's not labeled low-fat may have less overall sodium than one marketed as heart-healthy. That's why I like to say labels don't tell the full story, ingredients do. It's a slogan I adopted after a long chat with a dietitian who explained how marketing terms can be misleading. Now for the practical advice. The next time you reach for a can of soup or a healthy frozen dinner, don't just read the front of the label. Flip it around and check the sodium content. Aim to stay within a limit that feels right for your body. Some doctors advise less than 1,500 milligrams a day for older adults, though you should consult your own health provider for the exact figure. If you discover a product has more than 300 to 400 milligrams per serving, consider finding a lower sodium alternative or making your own soup at home. Trust me, a homemade batch of soup can taste even better, especially when you season it with herbs like thyme, rosemary, and garlic instead of relying on salt. When you make this shift, cutting out hidden sodium bombs, you'll notice a difference in how your body feels. You may experience fewer bouts of bloating or those weird overnight foot cramps that sometimes wake you up. Beyond that, there's an emotional lift. You feel more in control of your diet and, by extension, your health. It's freeing to realize that low-fat or low-calorie no longer dictates your choices. Instead, you become an informed shopper, making decisions based on what truly benefits your body. Now, before we move on to the next lesson, I want to check in. If you're still here and finding this information valuable, drop a comment with the number 2 to let me know. And if you haven't done so yet, consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. Your support goes a long way. Let's talk about the second lesson. Your taste buds might be fooling you. In my younger years, I prided myself on having a moderate palate. I never added heaps of salt at the dinner table, so I figured I wasn't at risk of overdoing it. But here's the bold truth. You can become so accustomed to salty foods that you fail to realize how much you're consuming. High sodium levels create a baseline, a reference point for your taste buds. So when you try something less salty, it can initially taste bland. That leads many seniors to think, I don't like unsalted or low-salt foods, so they go back to seasoning habits that put them in danger. There's a misconception that if you're not physically picking up the salt shaker, you must be eating a low-salt diet. Frankly, that's wrong, especially when many processed foods come preloaded with sodium. Frank, a 79-year-old friend of mine, learned this the hard way. He boasted, I never add salt at the table, yet his blood pressure soared, and his doctor kept warning him about hidden sodium. It turned out Frank's typical lunch was deli meat sandwiches on white bread, often with cheese and pickles. Each of those items, deli meat, bread, cheese, and pickles, brought its own salty punch. Added up, it was a sodium avalanche, even though he never sprinkled additional salt. Here's the surprising insight. Taste buds are flexible. Studies have shown that if you reduce salt gradually, you can retrain your palate within a few weeks. That's what Frank did. He swapped his deli meat for lower sodium turkey slices, cut back on the cheese, and replaced pickles with sliced cucumbers and a dash of vinegar. At first, he complained everything tasted dull. Then around the 2-week mark, he found that fresh herbs and pepper created flavors he'd never noticed before. He used phrases like, I can finally taste the sweet crunch of lettuce, which he claimed he'd missed all these years. That's when I coined my little slogan, train your taste buds, reclaim your health. It reminds me that patience is key. You might hate the change at first, but within a month, that bland food starts tasting delicious, and you won't miss the salt at all. The practical step here is to transition slowly. If you normally use a certain brand of seasoning, pick one labeled lower sodium and use half of your usual amount. Or if you're cooking from scratch, reduce the salt by a quarter and experiment with spices like cumin, paprika, basil, or lemon zest. Track your body's reaction. You might notice you're less thirsty throughout the day or that your ankles don't swell as much. And don't forget the emotional benefit. By retraining your taste buds, you gain confidence. You prove to yourself that it's never too late to adapt. You also start to rediscover flavors you might have overlooked, like the natural sweetness in tomatoes or the mild earthiness of mushrooms. If you're still here, comment with the number 2 below to show me you've got this lesson down. And if you haven't subscribed, now's a great time. Every time you engage, it helps more seniors discover potentially life-changing information. On to the third lesson. Watch out for heart-healthy marketing claims. This one might sound counterintuitive because we often assume that if a product is labeled for heart health, it must be low in sodium. However, many brands rely on ambiguous messaging. For example, they might advertise no trans fats or cholesterol-free, but include a staggering amount of sodium to ensure the flavor appeals to consumers. I've come to see these labels more as advertisements than guarantees of overall health benefits. Many seniors, understandably, want to protect their hearts. So they grab whatever has a big bold label saying it supports a healthy cardiovascular system. Bob 82 is a classic case. He fell for a cereal that prominently displayed a heart logo on the front. The box emphasized its high fiber content, making it seem perfect for lowering cholesterol. But guess what? The sodium levels were near 400 milligrams per serving. By the time Bob added milk and ate the recommended 2 servings, he was well on his way to an alarming daily sodium total. When he learned that some cereals use sodium to enhance flavor and texture, he felt cheated. The misconception is that heart-healthy marketing covers all aspects of health, including sodium reduction. Not necessarily true. The real truth is that heart-healthy can be narrowly defined, focusing on a single factor, like fiber, while ignoring others. This can fool well-intentioned seniors into making choices that hamper their blood pressure management. Here's the surprising part. A cereal that doesn't have a heart-healthy label might actually have less sodium. It's essential to read the nutritional information on the side of the box. That's why I often remind friends to peek behind the heart icon, which is my way of saying, don't stop at flashy labels. What can you do? Flip the box around and look at the facts. The sodium per serving, the added sugars, the total fat. If you see a brand has 150 milligrams of sodium or less per serving, that's usually a better choice than something boasting a fancy heart logo, but packing 300 milligrams or more. Look for cereals that use dried fruits or nuts for flavor instead of salt. Or better yet, buy plain rolled oats and add your own berries, cinnamon, or a drizzle of honey. The emotional payoff? Peace of mind. You're in control, not a slick marketing campaign. That sense of empowerment is enormous, especially as we age and face so many decisions about our health. I'd love to know your thoughts so far. Do you feel a bit more informed about how marketing claims can mislead us? If so, drop me a note in the comments. And if you're finding this helpful, remember to subscribe and share these insights with a friend who might need them. Now, the fourth lesson is a big one. Skipping salt doesn't mean skipping flavor. I used to think reducing sodium equated to eating bland, tasteless meals. And to be frank, that fear alone kept me from making changes sooner. No one wants to dread every bite of their food. We associate the simple joy of tasting something delicious with living well. So, here's my bold statement. You can create meals bursting with flavor using herbs, spices, vinegars, and citrus. Salt is just one player in a vast orchestra of taste. There's a misconception among seniors that salt is the primary or even sole means of making foods tasty. Yet take Mary, 75, who had always salted her food generously. She grew up in a household where every dish started with a hefty sprinkle of salt. When her doctor advised cutting back for the sake of her swollen ankles and borderline high blood pressure, she was devastated. "I'll never enjoy food again," she told me. But she chose to be proactive. She bought a beginner's spice kit and made a habit of trying a new herb or seasoning each week. She discovered rosemary adds a piney, comforting flavor to roasted potatoes, Cumin enriches soups with a warm, nutty aroma, and lemon zest can brighten up grilled fish without any salt. Within a few weeks, Mary felt like a culinary explorer, excited rather than deprived. She even started hosting small potluck dinners to show friends that good food needn't be salty. That's the surprising truth. Flavor can come from countless sources, and reducing salt can actually open you up to a world of taste you've been masking all along. I like to say, when you ditch excess salt, you open your palate. It was in Mary's kitchen that I discovered how black pepper and chili flakes provide a satisfying kick that made me forget about salt altogether. Practically speaking, experiment with adding fresh herbs at the end of cooking instead of the beginning to preserve their aromatic qualities. Taste your food before automatically reaching for the salt shaker. It's astonishing how often habit, not taste, drives us to add more salt. Get creative with vinegars like apple cider or red wine, which can add tang and depth. Use fresh citrus juices, lemon, lime, or even orange, to elevate flavors. You might also try salt-free seasoning blends, but always read the label. Some still sneak in sodium in different forms. The emotional benefit? You regain excitement about cooking. Instead of feeling restricted, you feel like you're on a flavorful journey. Food becomes an adventure again, rather than a predictable routine dominated by salt. And here's a quick check-in. If you're still watching and appreciate these food-related tips, comment with the number 4 to let me know you made it here. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Sharing a like or a comment helps more people discover these insights. Now let's move to the 5th lesson I learned. Cutting back on sodium can make a difference faster than you think. One big fear seniors have is that dietary changes take forever to show results, and by the time they do, it might be too late. But in many cases, once you reduce salt, you can experience improvements in blood pressure, energy levels, and even joint comfort within weeks, not months. That's what happened to Lucille, who is 80 and used to wake up every morning feeling puffy and stiff. Her son, worried about her reliance on convenience foods, challenged her to reduce her daily salt intake. "Just give me 3 weeks," he said. "If it doesn't help, you can go back to your normal routine." Skeptical but willing, she agreed. The misconception is that meaningful health changes take months of grueling effort, so why bother starting? But Lucille's story proved otherwise. She replaced canned vegetables with fresh or frozen ones. She cut down on salted snacks, opting for unsalted nuts and fruits. Within 2 weeks, her morning stiffness eased noticeably. By week 3, she was sleeping better. When she visited her doctor, her blood pressure reading dropped from borderline high to within a healthier range. The doctor was pleasantly surprised. Lucille felt like she'd discovered a secret. Small shifts in diet can yield big rewards relatively quickly. The surprising insight is that our bodies often respond more swiftly than we expect. Salt influences fluid balance, blood pressure, and kidney function in tangible ways. Once you reduce that hidden sodium, you may see relief from bloating, fewer headaches, and even an overall sense of lightness. I like to remind people of the slogan, 2 weeks can change your life. It's not just marketing fluff. It's a reflection of how adaptable our bodies can be. The best practical advice here is to try a salt detox for just a couple of weeks. Be strict during that period. Keep track of your daily sodium intake in a small notebook or on your phone. After 2 weeks, reevaluate. Notice any changes in how you feel, how you sleep, or whether that wedding ring is still feeling snug. If you see improvements, that's your body telling you this is a step in the right direction. That emotional payoff is profound. You realize you still have the power to affect your health destiny, even if you're 70, 80, or beyond. Feeling that sense of control might inspire you to tackle other health goals, such as adding light exercise or focusing on better sleep. Before we move on to the final and arguably most crucial lesson, I want to check in again. If you've listened this far and find these tips useful, drop a comment with the number 4, and if any doubts or questions have popped into your mind, share those too. Subscribing will ensure you catch future videos on how to stay vibrant and strong as you age. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Finally, here is the 6th lesson, and trust me, this one surprised even me. Social connections can either help or hinder your low-sodium lifestyle. This might sound odd at first. What does sodium have to do with who you eat with or talk to? But consider this. We often choose foods based on social context, family traditions, restaurant outings, potluck gatherings. If everyone around you is piling on the salt, you might feel pressured to do the same. Or you might eat high-sodium dishes out of politeness when you're a guest. The fear of being rude or difficult can lead us to ignore our health boundaries. George, 84, learned that the hard way. He lived in a retirement community where Friday nights were pizza nights. Each Friday, the entire group would gather for a few slices of pizza loaded with cheese and pepperoni, accompanied by salty garlic bread. George's doctor had advised him to cut back on sodium, but he dreaded missing the weekly social event. Isolation and loneliness can be as harmful as a poor diet, so he didn't want to distance himself from friends. The surprising twist was that when he confided in them, explaining his health concerns, he found out a few neighbors had the same issue. Instead of skipping pizza night, they spoke to the kitchen staff about making a pizza with lower sodium sauce and toppings like vegetables instead of pepperoni. Soon enough, half the group started joining in, and they discovered they actually liked the new pizza better. It was a win-win. The misconception is that reducing salt means excluding yourself from fun gatherings or traditions. But the reality is that people are often more understanding than we give them credit for, especially if they're seniors who might share similar concerns. To me, the slogan is, don't isolate, communicate. A quick chat with the host or your dining companions can lead to more inclusive food options. That's the practical takeaway. If you know you'll be in a social setting where salty foods dominate, bring a low-sodium dish to share or talk beforehand about possible alternatives. You'll likely discover that others are grateful for the option. The emotional impact is huge. Instead of feeling powerless or isolated, you feel connected and supported. You might also form deeper bonds with people who share the same health goals. So don't let social occasions become a roadblock. Use them as opportunities to spread awareness and encourage one another. If you're still watching, drop the number 6 in the comments to let me know you made it to our final lesson. And thank you for your dedication to learning about these life-changing tips. Now, as we close, let's recap the 6 lessons that can transform your health journey. First, don't be fooled by healthy labels. Always check sodium content. Second, remember that your taste buds can fool you, and retraining them is possible. Third, heart-healthy marketing might not be as comprehensive as you think. Dig deeper. Fourth, skipping salt doesn't mean skipping flavor. Explore spices, herbs, and citrus. Fifth, changes can happen faster than you think. A couple of weeks can bring noticeable improvements. And sixth, your social circle can help or hinder your efforts. So don't hesitate to communicate your needs. When you put these pieces together, you get a clear picture of how to reduce sodium without sacrificing the joys of eating or alienating yourself from social experiences. And the stakes are real. Ignoring excess salt puts you at risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, kidney issues, and the limitations that come with them. But by embracing these lessons, you can maintain your independence, enjoy better energy levels, and hopefully extend those precious moments with family and friends. I want you to pause and imagine what your life could look like if you put even half of these lessons into practice. Envision waking up with less swelling in your ankles, feeling more energetic throughout the day, and looking forward to meals that taste truly fresh and flavorful. Picture yourself visiting the doctor and hearing that your blood pressure has improved or that you've staved off a serious issue. That's the kind of future we're talking about. As a personal step, consider picking just one habit to change this week. Maybe it's reading labels more carefully or cutting the salt you add to your cooking by half. Then observe how you feel. If you're comfortable, come back and share your progress in the comments. That sense of accountability and community can make all the difference. If you found this video insightful, I encourage you to leave a comment sharing one lesson you plan to implement. Maybe it's the idea of slowly retraining your taste buds, or perhaps it's the importance of reading the fine print on so-called heart-healthy products. Your story might inspire another senior to take control of their health too. And if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Share it with a friend who might be struggling with their sodium intake or feeling confused by misleading food labels. Every bit of engagement helps these messages reach the people who need them most. I want to close on this note. You have more power than you think. Reducing sodium isn't just about avoiding a future crisis. It's about enjoying every moment of the life you've worked so hard to build. It's about having the freedom to say yes to social gatherings, to family visits, and to the activities that make life worth living. Don't let salt determine your destiny. You can make a change at any age. I'm living proof. Thank you for joining me in this conversation, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care and remember that each small step adds up to a healthier, happier you.